Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I am calling to order this Board of Education meeting. It is Monday, January 29th, 2024. It is 6:02 p.m., and we are in the Nashua North Boardroom. Ms. Lampier, would you mind doing the roll call?
Sure. Ms. Bishop,
Here.
Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Ms. Prin,
Here.
Ms. Daniels-Williams,
Here.
Mr. Claffey,
Here.
Ms. Darling,
Here.
Ms. Gilio,
Here.
I'm here. Ms. Raymond,
Here.
let's see, so Mr. Farley
Here.
and Mr. Mears,
Here.
and then we also have in attendance Dr. Andrade, Dr. Safti, Mr. Posca, Mr. Donovan, and yeah, but he left, right? Okay, and and Mr. Donovan. Thank you. Okay,
Would you mind doing the prayer?
sure.
And then after we do the prayer, Ms. Julio, can you do the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Okay. Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty of managing the educational institutions of our beloved city. In our common endeavors, may we find a spirit of unity and understanding which will enable us to face our multiple problems with an objective mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will be for the betterment and greater happiness of all of our fellow citizens. Amen. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
So to open up our meeting tonight, I am super excited. We have our kid governor here, Miss Ellie Lively. And you're gonna come down here, sweetie, and meet with us. That's A-okay, so are we.
Okay. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you, Ellie Lively, solemnly swear to faithfully perform the duties of the office of New Hampshire's Kid Governor to the best of your abilities, and that you will support and defend the constitutions of the United States and the state of New Hampshire, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
One more, hold on. And you, I wear this all year long. You get it this, you get it this year. There you go. Great job.
I am proud to introduce the 2024 New Hampshire Kid Governor, Ellie Lively.
Hi, my name is Ellie Lively, your 2024 New Hampshire's Kid Governor, and I am honored to be here today. I am so pleased that I will be able to carry out my platform on decreasing animal abuse in New Hampshire. I love all animals and feel as they should be treated well. Think about how many people in New Hampshire have pets. A lot, right? In the United States, every minute an animal suffers from animal abuse. Some reasons people might abuse animals are they don't know how to take care of an animal. Other people don't consider animals living creatures, and sadly, some even find hurting animals entertaining. I want to help animals. In 2023, there were over 8 cases of animal abuse in New Hampshire that made the news so far. No matter what the reason, I believe all animals should be loved and cared for when they need it most. According to New Hampshire law, all complaints about animal abuse must be filed with a local law enforcement If someone sees an act that they believe to be animal cruelty, it should be reported to a local law enforcement officials. I will work hard to be a good kid governor. Let me tell you a few things about me. I'm the oldest out of 3 girls, which shows I am responsible. I have to balance my time between my sports, basketball and lacrosse, my sister's sports, homework, band. I play the saxophone and other things, so now I'll add kid governor in there too. Lastly, I listen to others when they want to speak. I help out when I can, and most importantly, I am not afraid to ask for help when I need it. I am glad I have my executive counselors so we can help each other out and carry out our platforms. As kid governor, I will coordinate with the animal shelters in New Hampshire so that 5th graders can volunteer at their local shelters. I already volunteered to read to the animals, and I would like to get others involved as well. I will hold donation drives to provide food and supplies to shelters. I will make videos to share with 5th graders in New Hampshire about how they can stop animal abuse and how to properly care for their animals. As part of my awareness campaign, I will run a blog on the New Hampshire Kid Governor's website, which will include the contact information of the closest shelter if anyone needs help caring for their animals, and a list of ways people can help stop animal abuse. This is what I want to do to help stop animal abuse as New Hampshire's kid governor. I want to thank all the 5th grade students across the state that voted for me and my wonderful executive council. I am looking forward to working with Parker from Maple Street School in Hopkinton, Hattie from Edward Fern Elementary School in Gorham, Zoe from Maple Street Magnet School in Rochester, and Jack from St. Chris Academy in Nashua, Noah from Oyster River Middle School in Durham, and Levi from Beaver Meadow School in Concord. I personally want to thank my family, my dad for taking and editing my video, my mom and my sisters for supporting me. I also want to thank my friends Bella, Maeve, Isabel, and Lucas, and especially my teacher, Miss Carrigan. Lastly, I want to thank my school and everyone who voted for me. Thank you. At this time, the executive counselors will take their oath of office. Executive counselors, please stand and face the audience. Listen carefully to the following oath and at conclusion say I do. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully perform the duties of office of New Hampshire's Kid Executive Council to the best of your abilities, so help you God?
Congratulations. And congratulations to the 2024 New Hampshire's Kid Governor, Governor Ellie Lively. Please come forward and receive your certificate. Well done.
You okay? Ellie? So she's a little nervous now, but she did just present in front of Governor Sununu.
Oh my
and
gosh.
300 guests at her inauguration, and she did a wonderful job, but tonight she's a little shy.
We're so proud of you, Ellie.
Thank you for inviting us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic.
See your shirt?
Oh, the
Kind to animals.
oh, thank you. Hey. Ugh, now we're just onto the consent agenda, guys. So much less important than kid governor. So I'm looking for a motion to accept the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Filio.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Raymond. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Darling, motion passes. This brings us up to our first public comment question period. Mr. Johnson, would you mind grabbing the first comment? So first comment is for items on the agenda. Second public comment is for items not on the, can you just pass it down? Oh, and you've got the far reach now. Get your steps in. Thank you. Okay. First up is James Graham. Just make sure the green light is on the microphone. And just, sorry, I forgot my little spiel. So public comment is 15 minutes long. Everybody gets 3 minutes. I start a timer. Okay. I'll make intense eye contact with you right as we're coming up to the 3 minutes. I try not to be rude and interrupt you, but if you've gone like way far into the fourth minute, I'll do something kind to help wrap it up. But if we get to the 15 minutes and people are still going, I'd be looking for a motion for one of you guys to extend public comment. Okay? Okay, so let me get my.
Yeah, sure. Is that better?
Yeah, well, just, you don't have to get right on.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay,
The
go
extra
ahead.
seconds if I can get them. My name is James Graham. I'm a math teacher here at Nashua North, but I'm also the father of James and Henry, two wonderful data points at Broad Street I call kids. Kids already struggle so much with socialization, especially post-COVID, which interrupted multiple years of interaction with peers. We're now asking these kids who already went through so much and are just now righting the ship to split up and attend middle school with total strangers, then move again once new fleeting friendships have been forged. This extends beyond just socialization, though, too. Student athletes won't have the opportunity to develop a rapport with future teammates while the rest of the district does. That puts these students at a disadvantage when trying to make a team or fight for playing time. Similarly, chorus, band, theater, running for student council, etc., rely on the trust of your fellow classmates to do your best, a trust that you're not giving them the chance to earn. They will suffer academically too. One of the hardest parts of being a teacher is knowing my effectiveness is dependent on the mindset of my students. If they're hungry, tired, lonely, stressed, depressed, anxious, or a handful of other states of mind, I know that getting through to them is going to be a challenge. That's why I find this decision to be so callous. You're sacrificing our children for the convenience of others, the ripple effects of which will spread through so many aspects of these children's lives. Your reasons for not wanting to make a move, according to your recent thing that you shared with us via email, was that one, Pennachuck is already at capacity, and two, justification for a third team per grade at McCarthy. Regarding the population swell at Pennachuck, in the initial May 22nd presentation to the board on redistricting, we were told that our population is dwindling and that we could consider closing as many as 6 schools in our district. I cannot reasonably believe that on one hand, we can talk about how our student numbers are dropping rapidly, and on the other, try to claim that an extra 25 students per grade is going to somehow stretch the limits of a school that has handled that many kids in the past. Pennachuck's estimated capacity at that meeting was estimated at roughly 970 students. Even if that number was artificially high and the space was an actual issue, I would rather my kids attend every class in a trailer with more permanent friends than get jerked around every couple of years to make numbers match. Even still, given what we know about enrollment, it would just be a temporary issue. As far as the third team at McCarthy goes, I do find it funny that this is where the district draws a line on moving teachers. I've watched numerous colleagues from health, PE, world language, nurses, and administrators travel during the school day or move schools entirely due to numbers. I've watched less experienced teachers move schools or leave the district entirely because someone else wanted to transfer to a better location. Specialists at the elementary schools who have spent nearly their entire careers moving around to where they're needed. Why is this team sacrosanct when so many others were moved at the needs of students? That is what we're here for, the needs of students. It feels more like a veiled threat to get us to go along, to get along, just so that we can have our lines where we have them. These are our neighborhood schools. Why are you kicking us out of our own neighborhood? Thank you.
Thank you. Nick Thomas? Nick Thomas, you don't have your topic down. Is it on the agenda? Yes. Okay, go ahead. Okay. starting the timer again. Okay. Name and address, please.
My name is Pranav Raval, and is my neighbor, Nick Thomas. So the reason to come over here is that the recent school districting, the line and the boundaries, put our both kids in a two different school now suddenly. And our kids are going on the same school from last 6-7 years. And the boundary was actually water line that separate the two schools zone. And suddenly now the new school district boundary is shifting and it's riding middle of the street. So now the people on the two sides of the streets are in the two different school districts. It was a water line, the creek. If you see the map where I put it over there, and you can see that I just zoomed that area. And so there must be a really good reason to do that one, and I'm sure there's a good reasoning. But because of this new line, suddenly kids who are playing and studying together, doing all the clubs and activity, now they suddenly feel like two different schools because of the McCarthy and the fairground. So the request is like, if they give us a variance and they can pick and choose which school they can, it would be really helpful for these kids not to have that stress and settling down or losing the friends. So that's it. You want to add?
Yeah, and the ironic thing is, you know, every morning, every afternoon, the bus stop is right in front of my house. And so my kids, you know, they go to the end of their driveway, you know, his son comes over the street and they get on the same bus together. You know, next school season, now it's going to be two buses going to the same location and going to two different schools.
You mind if I interrupt you really quickly? Because I believe that it's both kids on both sides of the street on New Searles are going to the same school.
They are.
Yeah.
Could not read that, could not tell from.
That was one of my questions when we did this too with, when Mr. Smith was here, was, is it one side of the road, but it's the whole road goes to that side. So it would be like, if the creek were another road, it would be the property lines behind the New Searles addresses.
Got it.
So you're not,
So we're not affected?
no.
Okay.
Also same school.
Yeah.
Okay. Couldn't tell from the map.
Right? I'm not wrong. Okay. Making sure I wasn't wrong.
Is there any
Hey,
way
thank
that we
you.
can maybe post something online with like a similar map to this, except with the boundary line on the creek, so it lessens confusion for others?
It was the data software we used a road and not
Yeah.
creeks.
So if I bring this home and I color this part red in any one of my photo editing softwares and give it back to you, can somebody post it online so that people can see that it's the creek?
You can send it to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that software was based on the tech stuff. Yeah, I asked for.
I would say, I've never seen
Okay.
that happen.
I know, it was nice to deliver good news. Erin Kobiski, did I say that right? Yeah. Okay. Apparently I can see now with glasses. It's so sad. Name and address, please.
Erin Kobiski, it's 10 Iroquois Road. Thank you all for the opportunity to express our concerns regarding the redistricting of the middle school lines. I'm speaking specifically on behalf of my two children, but also my Broad Street family here, some of who are here tonight and many who couldn't be here due to conflicting schedules. If you continue with the district line being set to Broad Street, you're suggesting that a very small group of students go through 3 years at McCarthy, where they establish relationships within their peer groups, grow within their sports teams, band, and choral groups, only to have to start fresh in high school. Because this small group will move on from McCarthy to Nashua High North, while the rest of the school will move on to South. This is neglectful to even consider. Research consistently shows that a child's social, emotional well-being is essential to their overall success and happiness. After navigating through COVID times, these students are finally establishing a normal school experience and finding their groove. My 6th grader is currently receiving guidance lessons that were similar to what she should have received in 3rd grade, because many of her classmates still aren't always following proper behaviors in the classroom. We need to continue this growth But how can we do that if we're asking them to start over again in a few short years? All the maps and the charts we have seen show numbers, lots of numbers. Our children are definitely not numbers. It's not their fault that we chose to build a middle school that's way too big for our district. They were not involved in this decision, and they should not suffer the consequences. We also just paid a substantial amount of money to expand and renovate Pennachuck, and that school can certainly handle these extra 85 kids that are referenced in the charts. With the renovation and expansion of the Bronstein apartments, the addition of the High Street Flats, these numbers may end up evening out in the coming years. Yes, these are considered transient housing, but those students need to have a school to go to while they're living in our city. As a community, we have a responsibility to create a nurturing environment where our students feel valued and they can continue on the path to a successful future. We need to continue to work together with the best interests of the students in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan O'Neill? Is that O'Neill?
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Mine probably won't be as long. A lot of my points have already been covered. Dan O'Neill, 22 Navajo Street. Essentially, the area I wanted to cover about this was I've actually got kids that are out of Broad Street now. One of them went to Elm, and now I have one going to Pennachuck because of a variance, because of the confusion that happened this summer. I've noticed the difference that Elm Street gets relative to going to North, because they only produce about 20% of the students that go to North or so, something like that. I also talked to my daughter who went to Elm and then went to North. She lost about 70% of her friends to go to, because they all went to South. So she developed these friendships, now they're gone. Starting in 9th grade is really hard for most kids. And I think that the sports part of it too, which a lot of people kind of blew off, right? But I wanted to make a quote from Lisa before. Lisa Gingras, the director, she always starts off her, and those who have high school kids know this saying, interscholastic athletics are an extension of the classroom learning experience, and for many students, they're an integral part of their high school experience. In many cases, co-curricular involvement is the only reason some students come to school, right? So these relationships are established in sports and in classroom. They get the social, emotional stuff involved with it, and like everyone else is saying, you kind of bring them into this, make them switch up, and they don't get to maintain those friendships, which are kind of important, especially when you go into a new, scary thing like 9th grade. So that's basically what I wanted to cover. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Flynn?
Jessica Flynn, 25 Navajo Street. I'm here to urge you to move the middle school district line back to the river. Upon receiving the email on January 25th that outlined the different middle school boundary scenarios, one thing became incredibly clear. It's all about the numbers. My children are not just numbers. They are people and deserve to be treated as such. Currently, you have Broad Street Elementary going to McCarthy Middle School in the fall. The high school boundary lines are not even being taken into consideration. If Broad Street ends up there, they will be the only group of kids that will go to North for high school. Broad Street is a small school. Each grade level has around 30 to 50 children, with some already being districted to go to Pennachuck. A group of around 30 kids would be taken away from the majority of their friendships and connections they had made in middle school and have to start all over again in high school. This is neglectful of our children's social and emotional well-being. Our children deserve to be in a district where they feel like they matter and are not just looked at as numbers to fill a school. Thank you.
Jessica Monroe?
Hi, Jessica Monroe, 3 Carmine Road. I'm also here to represent Broad Street. I disagree with the decision that has been made to send Broad Street's kids to McCarthy, knowing that they will be the only kids to be pulled from that McCarthy population and then sent to North for high school. Social and emotional health and learning has been acknowledged by our district, by our state, by our country as a necessary component to student achievement and mental well-being. And pulling these kids from their peers when there's another option available that allows them to make and keep their friendships is a decision that I disagree with. I know you all have hard decisions to make. I don't envy the position that you are in, but I am asking as a parent from this community to not view our kids as numbers on a page. They are our children, and we want what's best for them. As a community, we have elected you to make the best decisions for our schools and our students, and we ask you to reconsider. My children have graduated from Broad Street. They now attend Elm Street and North High School. I'm here today not as a parent that will be directly affected by this decision, but as a community member desiring what is best for our kids. I've witnessed my own kids be separated from their peers, as the Broad Street population has long been split between Elm and Pennachuck. I know this is something that has happened for years in our district, but that doesn't make it right or best practice. If we have the opportunity to make a better, more healthy decision for our community, we should take this opportunity to do so. My hope is that the board will consider making an adjustment of the middle school lines to support the well-being of the students in our Broad Street community. And I just want to say that I don't know if everybody understands that Broad Street is a very small school. I think it speaks to the fact that we are really united in our neighborhood as a community, and we're talking about a very small number of kids. If we're talking about 100, 150 kids that are going to be disrupting the population at Pennachuck, that's an issue. But we're talking about a very small number of kids, and I think it's really important to view them as people and not just numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Whitcomb.
Good evening. Heather Whitcomb, 14 Denise Street, and I have two children at Broad Street as well. I do not want to see my kids separated from their friends, but I was discussing this with a friend of mine, and she works at Nashua North, and she says, you know, it's always been this. We've always had schools that get split because of districting needs. And I grew up in the Nashua school system, and I went to Fairgrounds Elementary, but I lived on the south side of Lake Street. And when we got to 6th grade, I had about 5, maybe 7 friends who lived on the north side of Lake Street, and they had to go to Elm Street. And I remember their faces. I remember them thinking, it's us, that's all we've got. They weren't the best of friends, but that's what they had. And I can only imagine today with texting and social media and seeing oh, my friends went to this game, my friends are doing this, but I'm at this school, I have to do this tonight. I can't even imagine, I don't know, it's 35 years later, how much more emotional distress it causes when the children know exactly what everybody else is doing. Now, that's not the answer. That's not, that's an issue everywhere. But the more I thought about it, I said, I don't think we need to do this to any children. I mean, this is a small group of kids. There's really, if you're going to put them in McCarthy, then you got to keep the group all together and wherever you send them to high school. It is a little ridiculous to send Broad Street kids to Nashua South when we are maybe half a mile from Nashua North. We have to think about this common sense. I think we need to think about this more globally. I think we need to think about elementary schools lining up with middle schools and middle schools lining up with high schools, because you don't want to do this to anybody. No kid wants to go through this, and they should be able to predict, if I live here, this is where I'm going to go to school and this is my path. And then I will take my kids to this high school, I will show them the sporting events, and they will be comfortable when they come here. When I came to find this room tonight, it took me a long walk to figure it out. But the more I expose my kids to the schools they're going to go to, the more comfortable they're going to be and the less distress we're going to have when they start that 9th grade or middle school or any of those things. So they are not numbers. They're all kids. They're all doing their best. We just need to find a better way to do this than to split schools. Thank you.
And that's it for first public comment. I appreciate everybody for coming. Here, Regan. This brings us up to our superintendent's comments. So I will give the floor to Dr. Andrade.
Thank you, Ms. Bishop. Tonight, I just want to again congratulate Ellie Lively on her award of being Kid Governor. I also want to recognize the maintenance and plan ops crews for preparing our schools this morning. They were out early when I was talking to them at 4 o'clock this morning, making sure the schools were ready. They appreciated a 2-hour delay, but I really want to thank them for all their hard work through the early hours in preparing our schools. I'd also like to congratulate Elm Street Middle School for sweeping the 7th Annual Middle School Basketball City Championships this weekend at a packed gym at Nashua North. Elm Street Girls won 63-41 over St. Christopher's Academy. Elm Street Boys won 61-42 over Pennachuck Middle School. Congratulations, Eagles. I also want to congratulate the 6 Nashua High South students whose art was selected as winners of the 2024 Scholastic Awards and the American Vision Nominee Awards. Their art in mixed media, watercolor, graphic, and charcoal are currently being exhibited in the Arts and Humanities Center at Pinkerton Academy in Derry and the Currier Museum of Arts in Manchester. For more information on the exhibits, please visit nashua.edu. Again, congratulations to our students on their creativity. Believe it or not, we're already thinking about next year and registration. Next Monday, February 5th, online registration begins for the upcoming 2024-25 school year for all our K students and new enrollees. Registration opens at 9 a.m. Once again, log on to nashua.edu for the link. If you know families who are looking to register, please let them know about the convenience of online registration. But as always, our schools are willing to help, so please do not hesitate to have them call if help is needed. If you're aware of families in need, the school district offers interpretation and translation services. Our school engagement coordinators are here to help you as well. If you log on to nashua.edu, please look at the home link titled Translate Interpret button located in the middle of the banner for additional help. The link includes a list of coordinators who can help navigate news and information about our schools, no matter what the language is. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's board response to the superintendent's comments. I'll start over here with Mr. Johnson, and we'll work our way around.
The only thing, do we know the students' names who have their art being exhibited?
Let's see. So these are, it's better in print. I'll tell you right now, because I'm going to end up not doing them service. So Ella Ben Zekri, Bhavani Lakshmi Ray Annan, that's more syllables in her name. So Ella Manson, Adria Makati, Uma Rao, and Gianna Serpentant.
Thank you.
Ms. Prin? Daniels Williams?
For continuing to remember to tell everyone about the kindergarten registration on February 5th.
Mr. Claffey? All good? Ms. Starling?
No comment.
Filio?
Thank you for sharing all the good news. Thank you.
Ms. Raymond? Ms. Lampier?
I just wanted to add my thanks to the crew that cleaned up the schools this morning, because I was out at 4 o'clock this morning driving to work, and it was really gross out there. So they must have had to do a lot of really hard work to get it done. So thank you to them.
I want to congratulate Ms. Lively as well, and I'm so sad that she was so nervous to talk in front of us. We were so kind and lovely looking. So if she ever wants to come back and do her speech, she's more than welcome. We would love to hear from her. Congratulations to her family for raising such a wonderful, wonderful girl. I have no other comments, so I will throw the floor over to our student reps. I'm gonna have to figure out how you guys are gonna decide who's going first. Okay, so it's Mr. Farley
Our
this
system
time.
has been established.
Okay, left, right, left, right.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. For the last few months, this Nashua North Student Senate and I have been working together in order to propose a new dress code for the entire school district. As I'm sure you can imagine, this has been a very slow process, but we are fortunately nearing the end of it. In the coming weeks, we will propose a new draft to Nashua North's administration, and if they approve it, we will then send it to South Student Senate and their administration. The reason I bring this up now is that if the high school administration pass it, it'll still need to be approved by you guys. And if any of you would like a copy of our proposal and want to ask me questions about it, I would be more than happy to have a meeting with you. There's still some work to be done, so I imagine that we won't see this for another few meetings, but I wanted to warn you guys in advance. Also, February is a very active month for clubs. The DECA State Conference is happening in a few short weeks, which I and the rest of DECA Club are looking forward to. Also, from Nashua North's brand new club, Mock Trial, we will be hosting a moot court here at Nashua North on February 21st at 7 p.m. A lot of work has been put into it, and I highly encourage you all to attend. One last thing is that I've heard there's an interest in starting a girls' hockey team between North and South, and I've heard that some supporters of this idea plan on attending our next board meeting and talking to us during public comment. I think it's great that they're finding their voice and using public comment as a means for communication. It's something that I think kids at both North and South don't utilize enough, and I think that it's vital that they understand the value that it can have. Thank you.
Harley?
This is going to sound like a very short speech compared.
It's okay, Mr. Mears. We look forward to it.
I'd first like to congratulate everyone at South and North for making it to semester 2. I can't believe it. I'd also like to congratulate the boys track team at their first divisional qualifier meet at UNH yesterday. Important dates coming up in the next couple of weeks at South include the driver's ed lottery tomorrow in the auditorium at 3:15. Course selection night for parents is this Wednesday, January 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. in the South Auditorium. Course selection for students begins February 2nd, and students will meet with their counselors from February 5th through 24th to go over their choices. Also on Wednesday are auditions for the spring musical Little Shop of Horrors. As a reminder, there is school on February 19th, which is President's Day, because we had primary day off. And seniors, make sure you fill out the cap and gown sizing form for graduation posted in the class of 2024 Google Classroom. Thank you.
You. Okay, so no budget just yet. So we're gonna pop right into our unfinished business, which is the middle school redistricting lines, which I thought would be appropriate after hearing from public comment. We can manage this pretty quickly. I do want to remind us, and I don't want to hinder people from talking, but we do have a non-public going on later on this afternoon. So this evening. So just to be mindful of the time. I know a lot of the stuff we've already discussed. So if you have new questions or new comments, that would be fantastic. But I just want to be mindful that we don't want to be here till 11 o'clock is all. But do whatever you want. Ms. Darling.
Would it make any sense to make a motion to change it so that the individuals that are currently at Broad Street, instead of them going, or that are supposed to be going to McCarthy, have them all listening to the parents? Sorry, I am currently not speaking well. So somebody else should make the motion instead.
So you want your motion to be to move the line back to the river?
No, because that's already where it is. No, just make it so that all the kids are staying with their friends and going to the same high school as the other kids that they're with, whether that's them still going to McCarthy and then going to the other school, or? It's the river. So then, yes, the river.
Lanfear?
So I know that there are 2 other schools that split as well, the Dr. Crispin Fairgrounds Elementary. And I was wondering, once they split, do any of the kids then split again to go to different high schools? Is this like something that's only going to happen in this one area, or does it happen to other kids as well?
No, so the Dr. Chris splits, so that half the students are going to Pennachuck and half the students are going to Fairgrounds. And then even at that point, they could be in 2 different high schools if they're north of the river or not. Sunset stays together all through middle school, K through 8, but they split for high school still.
Okay.
Fairgrounds splits at the middle school, and then they all go to South. So they will be together. Fairgrounds Elementary School will be together K through 5, split at the high school, split for middle school, and then all go to South.
Okay, I just was the having to get split up and then having to go to a different high school than everyone else that they're with. That just seems it seems kind of it seems like not a great way to do it. And I wasn't sure if it was just this one group of kids that was happening to, if it was other ones as well.
There's 2 other schools that are impacted as well.
Okay.
And over the course of coming up with these lines, we looked at same thing. Could we have feeder schools, all schools into the middle schools? We try to eliminate as much as as it was mentioned earlier. We used to have 5 splits. We're down to 3 splits. So we looked at many different ways to actually eliminate splits, and just because of locations, the configuration of the schools, it's almost impossible not to have splits in any school.
Would it be possible for, since Broad Street is such a small school and there's only a small group of kids impacted, would it be possible if they chose to go to Nashua South instead of Nashua North, would that work?
I mean, I think the conversations are really around the middle school as opposed to
The people that had stood up seemed to focus as well on the high school area. So anyway, I just thought I would ask.
Yeah, and I think just for the record, as you put it out there, it's the importance, I think, is to work with families individually. So if there's cases around anxiety, there's a family issue, the district is willing to work with families. Again, we have to put a line somewhere, and there's always going to be an impact to that. But in the last year and a half or so, we've been working with many families to talk about what's best for their child on an individual basis. And we've granted variances depending on individual cases. So if something comes up where we have to grant a variance based on what's going on with that individual student, we'll do so. But again, I think we have to make a couple of rules of where the lines are going to be, and then go from there.
It just seems, sorry, I'm speaking out of turn for a second. It just seems to me like Broad Street's the only groups that we've seen out of all the splits coming over and over to say that it's an issue. Like, I'm a Dr. Chris parent. I know that there's the split. It has not bothered me enough to ever say anything. But if it's affecting these families so much that they're coming in time and time and time again, I feel like we respect that when other people do it. So respect it for this group too. Now I'm done. I won't interrupt anymore. I'm sorry.
Raymond?
Thank you. So I think we went back and forth on this last summer when we were talking about it the first time. And I think a lot of us, I mean, I live right down the street, as everybody knows, and my kids split. Their Birch Hill split, not half, more than half went to Pennachuck, some went to Elm, mine went to Elm, and then Elm splits as well. So I know when a parent spoke earlier about their child losing their friends, all of my son's friends went to South, and he went to North. And fortunately, North is amazing, and he made new friends, and he's very happy now as a sophomore. But like, it's difficult. My question is going back to a little bit what Regan was asking to make sure I understand, because Elm splits, I had assumed, and that I never assume, that McCarthy would split. So, but based on the number of emails that we have gotten and some of the testimony, it sounds like Pennachuck all goes to North, McCarthy all goes to South, and then Fairgrounds will now split? Is that?
Yeah, there's a portion of Fairgrounds that'll split, that mostly in the Sunset Heights, Dr. Chris area.
Okay. So for me, I mean, I think I'd like to make the motion to put it just to have only one elementary school go to McCarthy and then have to come back to North with nobody else is splitting. It just doesn't make sense now that we've like learned about it. And I'm glad that we had the discussion, frankly, 24 months in advance so that we could have time to tease out the problem areas before everybody started getting on buses and going all over. So I would like to make a motion similar to what Christina was doing. Is there a motion on the table, or do we need to reword it?
I think it needs to just be.
Because I think
It needs to be wordsmithed to an actual motion.
I think the motion should be to update the middle school redistricting boundary such that Broad Street is now districted to Pennachuck, wherever that line is. And then when we look at elementary redistricting in our next task force. Have to keep that in mind. So that's my motion. Can I do a friendly amendment to your motion?
I was gonna say, you wanna make the motion? Okay, so Ms. Raymond makes the motion. Ms. Darling seconds it. Now we can open up for discussion.
Do I
and
need to say it again,
questions.
or did you get it? Okay. So my motion is that we update the middle school district lines such that Broad Street is now districted to Pennachuck. Right? And that puts Broad Street, Birch Hill, and Charlotte at Pennachuck and part of Dr. Crisp. Right? Okay. I feel like
Johnson.
I have a mental
Is that the existing river, the optional? So basically, we're saying we want to use the river line as the, right, that's the correct.
Right, because previously Broad Street split as well, right? So both Birch Hill and Broad Street split between Pennachuck and Elm Street.
And, okay. And all the Broad Street, they all go to north after middle school?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like literally that neighborhood right there.
So just to keep it on track for the rest of the year, I'm gonna ask that the audience keep it nonverbal if that's okay. I just don't want somebody to come in and I have to be mean. I'm just gonna be mean to everyone. Okay. Any other comments or questions about this motion, Mr. Claffey?
I'd just like to clarify before we look at the motion. Just, I want to make sure I'm reading the two maps correctly. It looks to me like about an 85 student diff or swing. That's 85 students will be affected depending on which map we approve for the existing lines. So I don't want the impression to be this is a handful of students. To me, that's easily 3 teams of students who are not just numbers. That's a swath. That's a big swath of people. I'm not talking about the students who have to go back to North later, but if we're looking at middle school, that's a lot of students.
Dr. Andre? Now I get to ignore you because my back is to
Excellent.
you guys now.
Well,
Ms.
I-
Giglio, then Dr. Andre, please.
I do have a question based on, partly on what Mr. Claffey just said. What is the total population? We're looking at it 1 year at a time, but what is the total population currently of Broad Street students?
Per grade or the whole school?
The whole school, I mean, and then, yeah. But we're talking about 85 students who it may affect next year? Is that what you were saying?
No, I think that's
Claffey's?
7th, 8th, or 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Yeah, so there's roughly,
The three grade levels?
correct,
Okay.
yeah. So there's roughly about 24 students per class. So it's around 50 students. But I just wanted to make a point of just looking at, and this will be a different conversation that we'll have during the budget season when we're looking at the overall student enrollment, that McCarthy's numbers will be similar to Fairgrounds numbers at this point. Fairgrounds is going to be a two teams per grade level. So McCarthy could be 2 teams per grade level if it's around 635 students. So, so that, again, I think that would go into budgeting, the size of the teams where, that'll be a conversation where we need to have, if, McCarthy's roughly and Fairgrounds roughly around 600 students. That's about 100 students per team, divided by 4. It's about 25 students per class. And so that's a conversation that'll come up again, where it is more than numbers. To Mr. Claffey's point, that could be the difference of 12 teachers between these students going to McCarthy or to Pennachuck. So that's further discussion that could be impacted, as the gentleman mentioned earlier, who was a math teacher, that we move teachers around, we look at class size, we look at overall, but McCarthy would be right on the cusp of whether we have 2 teams per grade level or 3 teams per grade level.
Ask another question to keep me fully enlightened. So we understand that the Broad Street children under the current proposal would go to McCarthy, but then they would go to North. So for the 3 years they were at McCarthy, they would all be together, but they would be making new friends that they would not yet be able to go to high school with. What exactly happens at Dr. Crisp? What exactly, they go to elementary, then where do they go to middle, and then where do they go to high school? How many And the other schools that are affected similarly to Broad Street, I'd like to hear about how that works out for them, looking at the 3 levels of school.
So the students at Dr. Crisp are together K through 5. The students who live in who go attend Dr. Crisp, who live north of East Hollis Street, go to Pennachuck, and the students who are south go to Fairgrounds Middle School. And then
Where do they go to high school? Do they all go to one high school, or they split again?
they all go to,
They all go to South.
yeah, they all go to south. And then, right, and then Sunset Heights is altogether K through 8. They'll be at Sunset and Fairgrounds, and then as they currently do, some students may end up at North and some students will end up at South.
And Fairgrounds Elementary is also part of this?
So Fairgrounds Elementary, there'll be, if you're looking at your map, that kind of carve out. So Fairgrounds Elementary, there'll be some students who end up at McCarthy Middle School, and then they all go back to South.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
For the future, Broad Street numbers going down in grades, are we looking at less kids per class going down, like for third, second grade, the ones who will be coming up into the middle school system?
There's a slight decrease at Broad Street over the next couple of years. It's down from like 23 students in a class to maybe about 20 in a class. I mean, it's not significant drop-offs, but it's, again, there's about 50 students who matriculate through 5th to 6th grade per year.
So I just actually asked Mr. Forrest, and he said that they have 2 groups of 19 students, approximately 40 students.
Thank you.
Cynthia?
Mentioned the teams and how it could affect the budget. Could you speak more about that?
Yeah. So again, every year, especially this year, we look at the number of students in a class. So we would look at the overall size of how many students at each grade level and how many students contractually can be in a classroom. So if McCarthy's roughly around 635 students, then you take out the 35 students who are intensive special needs, it's about 600 students per grade level, which would be 100 students per team. And so if it's at 721 students, or about just, and then you minus out the 35, you're just about 690 students, and that would be, we would need 3 teams. So class size there would be about 19 students in a class as opposed to about 24 students in a class. But if we're at 2 teams instead of 3 teams, that's a difference of 12 teachers.
Can you talk about how it would affect the McCarthy, how the Pennachuck numbers would be affected?
Yeah. So Pennachuck will either way stay at 3 teams, whether it's 700 in scenario 1 or scenario 2. In scenario 1, that's about 800 students. And then if you subtract again the intensive special needs students, there should be an average class size around 21. If it remains at Broad Street boundary, there'll be roughly 690 students, and that's a class size around 19. So it'll be smaller class sizes on the options.
I was just concerned, with if 801 kids are going to Pennachuck, if those numbers would be like outrageously high, but 21 is not that high, so.
I mean, and again, I think everyone said it's just, the school's big enough to house those students, and then again, what's the class size going to look like? The bigger impact would be at McCarthy.
Okay. Now, so if we had only 2 teams at McCarthy instead of 3, does that mean that you might have to let go 12 teachers?
Possibly.
Okay.
Ms. Raymond, and then I have a question too.
Thank you. So it's not in the packet, but we went back and forth quite a bit about a couple of the other lines last summer as well, to try and balance everything, but also balance free and reduced lunch numbers. If we were to pick up some of the kids, like say the the Dr. Chris families who aren't here, but also typically don't come to our meetings because of access issues. Would that mess up our free and reduced lunch numbers and thus our funding? Because I guess for me, if there was a way to do it so that, I don't know, so that there were more splits. I feel like that was one of the issues with one of my issues with the consultant last year, and maybe the process was that we didn't take a holistic look at the city and all of the levels together. Like we tried to piecemeal it, and I feel like all of the boundaries, once you shift some boundaries, it's like a domino effect, and now everything's messed up. I don't know what the answer is because we can't just pick up Elm Street and put it in McCarthy, but I'm uncomfortable with all of the options still.
Well, my question is, when we do come back to readdress the elementary school lines, if we even have to, what kind of changes are we looking at then? Like, are we looking at another set of monumental changes in a year? And really it's 1 year that these students are gonna be in this weird limbo between middle schools, and then when we redo the elementary lines, we could be looking at a whole different configuration of numbers?
Great
Sorry.
question. Yeah. So I wish I had a crystal ball. I think that when we look at redistricting line, to Ms. Raymond's point, what we're proposing is really what's a bigger task force of what the schools look like in 2035, so that we're not doing this every couple of years. What's our overall trend? What's the city planning? You know, there's new apartments coming in left and right. So again, I think we can't be looking at 2-year trends. You know, what we really need to be looking at is what does it look like in 2035? On that task force is to include the city, the mayor, the city planner, the COO, our COO, obviously the president, and really get from a task force on what's the long-term planning of what the schools look like, so that, you know, what's the investment going into the schools, what's the and again, what's the investment, and then possibly what those lines look like. So I think if we're just looking at lines every 2 years without really a long-term plan, there's going to be a lot of shuffling and a lot of upset people.
The way I look at it, which I'm in the minority, I'm aware of this, is if we're going to be relooking at lines in a year anyway, then why don't we just keep the lines where they are, and then kids are moving the least amount if we're going to be making changes again in a year that we don't even know at this point. Like if we're, instead of looking at a 2-year plan, like hold off on the middle school lines and just leave them as they are, and then readdress them at the same time that we're looking at the elementary school lines that we pushed out. And then the kids from Broad Street go up to Pennachuck and then north. And then it's less splits. I mean, I was kind of that feeder school mentality anyway, but you know, I told you I was going to be disagreeable about this, but I want the kids at Broad Street to stay together. As a kid as a parent with kids at Sunset Heights, though, that Sunset Heights split, and they went to middle school together, and then they split at the high school. It's actually been beneficial to them because when they go to all of the North and South games, they can go across the lines and they have friends in both places. So they're even more popular, or at least it's what it seems like when I'm just running after my daughter to pay attention to me. But anyway, there are some positives of switching schools, and it just depends on how resilient your kid is. But I don't have a crystal ball on that. Ms. Raymond?
Sorry, one more statistics question. How many variances have we done for Pennachuck this year?
Maybe a handful, not many.
I mean, I think to Dr. Andre's point before, we were working with families so that to try to accommodate them, to try to make that transition as smooth as possible. So we were open to trying to accommodate families in their requests. So I think that was our goal over the summer, to make sure this went as smoothly as possible.
And last one, no, I'll leave it. What's the deadline for teacher assignments so that everyone knows where they're going and they have time? Because I know that there's a whole contractual process with seniority about who gets to request and what. What's your deadline for making those staffing decisions? Last week?
No. I have to say, we're trying to work and collaborate with the NTU as much as possible to make a smooth transition. So with the redistricting, with the reconfiguration of teams, like tonight's decision will be impactful. What's possible sizes and then we'll follow the contract kind of language, whether teachers are getting displaced, or rift. So we have up until, I think, the second week of May for notification, but we want to do the process much sooner. So the boundary lines are going to be important, but it always looks at the overall enrollment.
Darling?
Kind of piggybacking off of Heather's question on the variances, not just how many were approved, how many were requested? Because I've heard through individuals who have tried variances that it seems to be similar to the disability process of deny, appeal, then maybe get it. And
So I can.
I know 3 people that got denied.
Yeah, I could get you those numbers, but I'll be more than happy to follow up with a conversation, but not prepared tonight with anything concrete.
Right. I just worry about, because I did like the idea of allowing for a variance for the parents that want it, but my concern is it would turn into the issue of, in trying to keep with balancing numbers, either denying or approving requests based on whether a family's income.
No. So over the last year, quite honestly, working with the 2 assistant superintendents and the building principals, is that I agree. I think over the years we heard it's deny first and then have the conversation. We've been really working hard to see what is the root cause of the variance. Is the building principal been working with the family? Have we exhausted all types of interventions at the school, and the student, again, needs a fresh start. So we've been really trying to be student focused in that kind of process, and then conversations between the 2 building principals. So we've kind of modified that in the last 18 months a lot. So we heard that room about we really want to be student and family focused and see if we can resolve any of the issues.
Glad to hear that.
This is a big vote. I see looks of trepidation from the new guys. I feel bad that this is one of the first things that you're walking into. I just want to let you guys know we're aware that this is a big question. It's a big motion, and I see your faces, and I just want to make sure that you guys know you can always, before meetings come out, you can always address what's in the agenda. You can call me, you can call Dr. Andre, you can get information, you can sit down. Just the door's always open before these votes so that you guys feel most comfortable doing them. But I think at this point, I'm not seeing any more, so I'm gonna, Ms. Lampier?
I just wanted to make a statement, which is that, if it was just a matter of the kids going to the school they wanted to go to with their friends, I would, be in favor of this. But when we're told that it may involve laying off 12 teachers, that's something, I have to consider the teachers as well. So I'm not going to vote in favor of this.
Okay, let's do a vote. No other comments or questions, right? Yeah.
Could we repeat the motion, please, before we?
Lampier, can you repeat the motion?
The recommendation is to update the middle school redistricting, so Broad Street is now districted to Pennachuck. And let me do the roll call.
You don't have to do roll call unless somebody wants to.
Okay.
No, so all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I think we're gonna have to do roll call because I couldn't.
Okay,
So sorry about that. Ms. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Ms. Prin,
Aye.
Ms. Daniels-Williams,
Nay.
Mr. Claffey,
Aye.
Ms. Darling,
Aye.
Ms. Gilio.
This is tough, but nay.
Okay. Also a nay. And Ms. Raymond?
Aye.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 6. So that's 6 for and 3 against. So the motion passes.
Oh my, we were voting on the amendment?
No, we're voting on moving the line back to the river.
Did
Do you
you,
need to change your vote?
Yeah, we're
I
not,
do, because I thought we were voting on, I'm under the weather. How about that?
That's
for
okay.
excuse?
you want to change
you
your
want to
vote?
change your vote?
I would like to, yeah, nay.
Stick to nay, okay. And anybody else?
I just want to throw out there that the student members, we voted last year that now they have the ability to do a symbolic vote, which is not required, but should you wish to weigh in, you're welcome to do so on any vote that we take.
Yes.
So, no pressure on this one. This one's a terrible one to start with. I just wanted to point it out while I was thinking of it.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain from this vote.
Okay. Okay, so now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now it's 5-4 and the motion passes. And, yeah, so now on to new business, right?
On to new business. Want to take a minute. Thank you guys for doing public comment, but I'm hesitant to express any happiness about this because now we have to go into a whole different set of work that administration needs to do. So let's all just be respectful that this is a difficult vote for everybody. So thank you guys for being positive participants in this. And I appreciate everybody engaging in a pretty difficult conversation, not for the first time, but thank you guys for participating. Yes, let's go on to, we have no new business. Nope. Like this is how I order at restaurants, like other people's menus look so much better than mine.
Okay,
So this brings us up to the Committee on Finance and Operations, and Ms. Lampier, that is you.
Okay, okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the 5-year contract with Cisco for phone infrastructure upgrades in the amount of $188,101.04 for year 1 and $98,232.52 annually for years 2 through 5. Funding to come from account 91.1992225536228.
Second that motion.
Any comments or questions in regards to the 5-year contract with Cisco? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, now this one is I would like a motion to request funding from the Board of Aldermen to complete this, the Stellos project and to assign the project to the Joint Special Schools Building Committee.
Sorry, what
You making that
project?
motion, or are you looking for a motion?
No, I was gonna make the motion. The Stellos, it needs to be refurbished, and so, we would like to have, to request funding from the Board of Aldermen and assign the project to the Joint Special School Buildings Committee. And I have more information about the project and the
I'll
things that need
second
to be
it.
done if you
For the
need it.
point of discussion.
No, my question was because it just said this project on the agenda.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's why I stuck it in there, because,
I was confused.
yeah.
Can you just update that on the, on
Okay.
your notes?
Yeah, to complete Stella's project. Okay, so motion seconded by Ms. Bishop. And, okay, so,
Is this going to guarantee that that fake grass is going to stop ending up in my car?
Probably not.
Okay, any comments or questions about the Stellos project? This is, but Stellos, and you guys know this, Stellos is split. BG pays in some money, right? For it?
Yes, they currently have a contract. I think it has a couple more years left, but if we're going to do this, we'll probably reach out and ask them to continue with that funding.
Gonna raise the rent on them?
That doesn't help with negotiations.
Can I just,
Mr. Claffey?
I think at the meeting, we were led to believe that a yay on this would simply move it, send it to the alderman for it.
Yes.
We're not necessarily approving a dollar.
No.
We're just sending it, okay.
Yep.
yes.
Yep, Board of Aldermen can still say no. We're just saying we'd like to start. I'm speaking for you. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. Because,
I wasn't even at
yeah,
the meeting. I just watched it. It's just so excited.
I'm glad you watched it.
Donovan?
I just wanted to speak to it. It'll move to the alderman. There's a number of smaller things to be done to update the stadium because nothing's been done to some of the areas since it was opened in the early 2000s. But the field, the biggest piece of it is the field, and there's a safety component to that. So I think that's important. My guess is that will pass. It's a question of the other items, how much will actually be approved by the board. And this would be a JSSBC thing, so 5 members of this board, along with 5 members of the Board of Aldermen, would be making the final decisions.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor of requesting the funding from the Board of Aldermen to complete the Stellos project and to assign the project to the Joint Special School Building Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. And then a recommendation to accept the invoices, I'm making a motion to accept the invoices over $10,000 on the, which is on an annual report.
Motion second.
Okay, any comments or questions in regards to the invoices? So all those in favor of accepting the invoices over $10,000 annual report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I heard students' voices over here. That's exciting.
Yes, it is. Okay, and I believe the final one that I have is a motion to approve the fiscal year 24 December transfer report.
Motion second.
Comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor of approving the fiscal year 24 December transfer report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. This brings us up to Committee on Policy. Ms. Raymond, I will hand the floor over to you.
Turn on my thing. Thank you. So, hold on. I have moved my. I have to scroll down to where policy is because there were so many financial documents. Okay.
I know.
Sorry. So on the Committee on Policy met 2 weeks ago. I don't even remember now. And as you all see, we have changed how we do our agenda for this year, which we voted in last year. And now we have a first reading and a second reading. So tonight we're going to start with the second reading for our policies, which means that they have already gone through policy, come to the board once. This is the second opportunity for people to have public comments. I didn't see any tonight. And so I'm going to move that we approve policy EBCB, fire safety, as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Darling. Comments or questions in regards to fire safety? I feel like we should have Smokey the Bear here. Seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor of approving policy EBCB, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Great. All right. I move to approve policy IJ, instruction materials as presented.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I'll give it to you, Christine.
What's that line? Pinch, poke, you owe me a Coke.
I've never heard that before.
Really?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, Caden says it all the time.
Okay, any comments or questions in regards to policy IJ? Mr. Claffey?
I was trying to earlier to figure out any dramatic differences, and I guess, is the superintendent perfectly fine with what appears to be a more involved role?
Yeah, I have no problem with this policy as it's presented.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes, Mr. Fosca?
as a follow-up to that one, we were asked to update this for the Department of Justice to include some more language regarding how we vet looking at some of our materials. So this policy in itself hadn't been updated since 2008, so it was due to be looked at. In addition, we've put in some specific language about being respectful and considering all of our diverse learners when we're looking at instructional materials. So that was kind of put in, and that was asked by us by the Department of Justice as part of the review.
And to clarify, this is instructional material presented in the classroom, not what's available for students outside of the classroom.
Correct.
This is like curriculum selection.
Right.
The only note I want to make on this is on the third page of the policy, which is page 47 in our packets. The last paragraph of the policy talks about a written plan for ongoing development and organization. And it says it should be presented to the school board every 3 years for periodic review. If we approve it tonight, an aye vote means that we're agreeing to 3 years. And so that question mark will go away.
Curriculum committee, how do you, I mean, this really is a policy that governs curriculum. How are you guys?
Does this mean that it has to be a curriculum review every 3 years?
No, it means that the superintendent or his designee has to create like a master plan for how we will vet curriculum, et cetera. And that plan needs to be brought to the curriculum committee every 3 years. And then the curriculum committee does what they want with the plan. And then brings it to us. We did dither a little bit on the number of years. Our terms are 4 years, so we didn't want to make it longer than that, right? And we wanted there to be the potential for some overlap with people who have historical knowledge, so it's not always brand new board members seeing a plan for the first time, and we want to have some historical consistency within the district.
And if I could just add, what it also does is helps us with budgeting if we know the curriculum cycles and resources necessary. So it brings multiple committees together, focused on teaching and learning. So it's a policy that actually memorializes our curriculum cycles.
And with the feedback we got from the DOJ, this will help to remind us to being sure that when we are selecting things that we are utilizing resources that put our English language learners at the forefront as well. Because what's good for English language learners is generally good for everyone. So.
I just want to clarify with Dr. Sarfty. Is this kind of in line with what's already happening, or is this a huge shift in practice? I only pretend to know everything, but sometimes I like the experts to help me.
Yeah, so certainly, and I definitely agree with Dr. Andre, we need to have curriculum cycles or curriculum review cycles. The only thing that I see in this policy that is kind of a red flag is there's nothing here about evidence-based resources. And I do think that should be a consideration, I guess. And the last thing I just want to say is number 9, match the appropriate skill levels of pupils. I'm not sure that is in line with the practices that we know to be aligned with empirical evidence.
I don't disagree, but it's in line with our state statute. And so there are times when we have to follow the state statute.
Was that part of the state statute changes in the policy?
Yep, okay. And we're approving this now, but the Ed 306s, which is where a lot of the statutory language comes from, are under review. Just to put a little plug out, in March, the Department of Ed is having their last feedback session for educators. So anybody who's watching this, who is an educator who cares about the minimum standards for education in public schools, should go on the Department of Ed's website and register for that, because they need the feedback from people who know what they're talking about.
I'll just add one last thing, but the evidence-based piece circles back to federal law.
I don't either. Where would we put it?
Administrators and teachers may select evidence-based or even high-quality evidence-based is how I would put it. It's got to be quality evidence-based.
How do you guys define high quality evidence-based? Is there like a Caldecott sticker on it? That's my library reference.
I know.
Well, so, I mean, I do think that we could put qualifiers on it. I mean, we're looking for peer-reviewed studies, and we're looking for positive outcomes that can and have been replicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to edit then, so the motion is to approve IJ with the following edit. On page 2, after the paragraph after number 9, it says administrators and teachers may select instructional material. It may select, and then it should say high quality,
Evidence-based.
evidence-based instructional materials. So I know that was a lot of words, but I wanted to make sure that Ms. Kinsella knows right where to put the insert. And then we'll bring it back in a year when we update the policies, the law.
It's may, it's not shall, so there's always some wiggle room somewhere. Okay. So on the motion is now to approve policy IJ as amended. That was Ms. Raymond and seconded by Ms. Darling. Is that reflective of your motion, Ms. Raymond?
Yes, with the edit that you were very clear about to add evidence-based.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving policy IJ as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, so I have 2 small things. One is we have our first reading. I didn't see any comments on any of these. However, Ms. Lampier had a question on JKAA regarding the final report. And Mr. Posca spoke with Attorney Bennett about it and got an answer to her question. And that answer was that parents get the initial report, but not necessarily all of the details of the final report. Is that correct? Because there's might be personnel and program.
Exactly. We can follow up with them and, we can put some verbiage into that part to say that they will receive some type of documentation, but understand that we may have to redact some of the information based upon the results of the investigation.
Is that a statewide policy or?
He did not say this was part of the statewide policy. He said it does state prior to that they will be receiving documentation. By putting some verbiage into that does not change the law itself. And if the committee felt more comfortable about explicitly stating some type of documentation, some type of notification, then it could be added at that time.
So we'll put this on the policy agenda if you want to wordsmith that a little bit more. Yep.
Sorry.
Actually, that's perfect if we're gonna keep wordsmithing it, because I was going to say, if somebody is seriously trying to tell me that if we have somebody look at a report and it says that they restrained, secluded a child against our policy and we did not inform the parents, whew, I mean, that sounds like a CYA move on our lawyer's part, but I think we should be looking out for the kids in this one, and parents have the right to know if their kid was put into a traumatic situation, as the director of special education put it.
So
this goes back to policy for additional work. Okay.
And then the last tiny thing, Mr. Farley mentioned in his comments that the Student Senate and admin are working on the dress code. That needs to be sent to Mr. Posca and I to talk about it in policy before it comes to the full board. So when you get to that point, just email Mr. Posca and I, and we will schedule a meeting, and then we'll invite you to policy.
Sounds great.
And anybody else who worked on it can come as well.
Proper dress. Okay, thank you for that. When is the next policy meeting? Okay. Committee on Curriculum and Evaluation, we should probably put the date of the next policy meeting in, just so that we know when the second readings are going to be first readings. It's okay, it's just a little housekeeping. So no motions presented in Curriculum and Evaluations, but do you guys want to just speak to your meeting?
Dr. Sarfte put on a titillating presentation, giving us an update on newer curriculum and literacy and math at the elementary level, I believe, and told us about workshop day. I'll let her.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Claffey. It was really our teachers. We had many teachers here presenting to talk about CKLA in their classrooms and also talk about Eureka Squared. And actually, Ms. Giglio shared some anecdotal some anecdotal information as well regarding CKLA. But just really wanted to let everybody know how exciting it is that we have piloted a knowledge-based curriculum and the kids are really thriving. So that was exciting. And yep, we just talked really quickly about the workshop day that we just had, and overall it was a pretty successful day. Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun to watch. Ms. Prin?
I missed the meeting because I can't meet at 4 o'clock. Are there going to be other programs piloted besides just CKLC?
So with regard to knowledge-based curricula, at this time, no. We had multiple ELA steering meetings last year and we looked at different resources. However, in order to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our community specifically, I mean, I'm going to be transparent with you. The content that is in CKLA is among the most benign, and we still had some objection to the most benign factual information. The other content-rich curricula that's out there is a little bit more provocative, and that was concerning to me based on how provocative topics have been received previously, and definitely concerning to some of our teachers. I will say that for me personally, I'm very familiar with CKLA. We brought it to Lawrence, Massachusetts, 12 to 11 years ago. It's a little bit benign for me, but I think for this community and for our teachers, it's the safest curriculum that we can choose. That's as honest as I can be.
Well, I didn't have any concerns about the content except for that it's very nonfiction heavy. I didn't really see a lot of fiction.
Yeah.
And my experience from what I've seen, I just would like to be able to revisit more. I would love to look at the materials because I think it's a great social studies program. I'm not sure if I think it's a great literacy program.
Yeah. So it's not, there definitely is an equal mix of fiction and nonfiction for sure, but anytime you want to.
I would love to be able to look at that material because my background is in literacy.
Right.
So.
No, I understand that. And, one of the reasons why specifically, aligned to the research, the Core Knowledge Foundation really heavily relied on informational text is because, as you know, right, we have the different pillars of reading, but reading comprehension doesn't stand on its own. If we just focus on teaching reading comprehension, well, we know because the last 2 decades it didn't work, right? In order for kids to be able to comprehend text once they do have those foundational literacy skills, they need to have knowledge about the world and they need to have vocabulary. And they are expanding their knowledge and expanding their vocabulary primarily with informational text, but definitely there are works of fiction that are embedded in there.
What is being used for phonics here?
We have foundations, and we also have included Haggerty for phonemic awareness. Yeah. I will say that CKLA does have a skills component. Some of our teachers have leaned into the skills component because it is directly aligned with the content, with the knowledge domain, but our core phonics resource that we use is foundations, and we do utilize that with fidelity, except what I will say is in 3rd grade for the pilot classrooms, it's an integrated approach through CKLA.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sure if you guys want to have a conversation online, that would be completely acceptable. Yeah. Yes, our administrators are great. They want to make sure that we sound smart when we're up here, so they will meet with us all the time. Ms. Daniels-Williams and then Ms. Raymond.
I just wanted to know how long the pilot will run. Is it going to be for the next 3 years that we just approved with the question mark?
So this was year 1, and the other piece to why CKLA specifically is, or why we just have one pilot going on, is because I was able to secure $300,000 from the Department of Education for a Lean Into Literacy grant, and just didn't have money for all the things. But, this year, I'm constantly getting feedback from teachers. I just sent out another survey last week. What we'll do is we will continue to convene our ELA steering committee and then figure out where we're going to go from here. I am hearing from the state that there is a potential for another Lean Into Literacy opportunity. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near what I was able to secure last year. But I guess the goal would be certainly for all classrooms to be teaching with CKLA in the fall.
Raymond? So I guess I have a question about the nature of pilots and that we're not piloting any other programs. So to me, that's not really a pilot because we don't compare and contrast. But I keep getting emails from teachers, speech pathologists who are concerned about CKLA. They're concerned about diversity or lack thereof in some of the lesson plans. They're also concerned about the lack of fiction. Not being a teacher, I don't have the capacity to evaluate it. I can only listen to what experts tell me. So my question is, when we're doing surveys of our staff, because the word I'm getting on the street from staff and from other experts is that people don't like it. Are we sending out surveys that are anonymous where teachers feel that they have the ability to respond honestly? Because I know, Ms. Oden would say frequently when she was here on the board for dozens of years, that teachers a lot of times don't like to put themselves out there because they fear retribution, whether they're going to get any or not. People are worried about saying something that goes against the grain. And so I want to make sure that we're getting accurate feedback, especially when it's something that is so outside of my wheelhouse of knowledge that it's difficult for me to make an educated vote on it.
Yeah, I can say in the years that I've been teaching, you always pilot at least two, not just one. So the fact that we're only piloting one, you don't have anything to compare it to. And I have a lot of concerns about this.
Okay, and I know when the Department of Justice was here, they were okay with it. And so for me, that's a big guiding, it's my North Star right now. So I'm going to go with them. But I want to make sure that we're getting accurate feedback and that we're not pigeonholing ourselves into one thing if, in fact, the rumors, and it's hard to credit rumors, other people are unhappy.
I would like to speak to that though, because I hear what you're saying, and I obviously don't doubt that you have heard from teachers, but we have 400 teachers at the elementary level. If you hear from 10, we're not doing so bad. I guess we had more than that here speaking about CKLA last week. We heard from teachers from Title I schools, from non-title schools, and yes, when I am trying to get feedback from teachers, I do put out anonymous surveys for them to respond. I can tell you that the last survey that I sent out when I solicited feedback, I got I want to say I got 600 responses. When the surveys are anonymous, people are not shy about what they have to say. Do we have some folks who are unhappy with CKLA? Absolutely. But I can tell you that, the proof is in what we're actually seeing in the classroom and hearing from the teachers who maybe they weren't sure exactly what it was going to look like from the beginning, but they at least went into the process with an open mind. And it's wonky. It's a lot of work. We heard that last week. It's a lot of work. But we also have some teachers who thought this is going to be way over our students' heads, and then were able to see what their kids could actually do. And this is not just at the Bicentennials and the New Searles. This is definitely across the board. And then I just want to say one last thing about experts. So this resource has been extensively vetted. Last week I shared that when it comes to ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, right? When curriculum resources are being vetted and evaluated, there are different tiers. This is one of the only ELA knowledge-based resources that received a one, which is the very, very top tier. And when we talk about, evidence-based, looking at what's happening in, well, all over the place for the last decade, but right now, everybody knows that there's like this Mississippi miracle that everybody is talking about right now, because there were some school districts that were the lowest performing in the country, and they are seeing tremendous gains. It's not really a miracle. It's just that they have vetted aligned curricula, CKLA, that's actually aligned to the reading research that came out in 2009 that most of us didn't pay attention to. I know I didn't when I was in Massachusetts because I didn't know about it until we knew about it. And Nashua was about 10 years behind, unfortunately, but now that we know better, we're trying to do better.
So I also want to go back to the policy that we just approved with the instructional resources plan, is that there is going to be a plan coming out about how to evaluate the curriculum that we just said that we would be doing. So I'm just going to assume that part of this is going to be able to be reviewed within this this policy that you guys just created. And I don't know if the review sheet is going to come from the Department of Ed themselves or if it's something that we create and they approve, but it sounds like there's going to be some checks and balances created. We just voted on that policy.
I can see about finding out. I know I was part of a curriculum review for math in my district last year. We actually were given a website where we were able to rank different programs, and Math Squared came out on top. So good choice for the math here, but I don't know if there's an English language arts.
Dr. Andre's saying there is.
There is,
And
okay.
I'm excited to see what the student outcomes are. I mean, I know the teachers have feelings about whatever it is that they're doing, but really what I want to see is the students' scores improving, because the student success is where I kind of hedge all my bets. So that's going to be part of what's working and what's not. So, okay, so I am going to encourage us to speed up. Only because our special guest is here for us. But let's bop on over to human resources really quickly, and then we will have liaison reports, which we will let's keep it super, super short. And then public comments. Are you guys all here for public comments? So 3, so probably about 10 minutes. Okay, cool. So Tom, we're only 10 minutes behind now. Thank you.
Hi, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to consider the items from the HR meeting held earlier this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, aye.
Opposed? Okay, we received an update from Michael Baus on the data having to do with employees and positions that are filled, and it doesn't differ dramatically from what we heard at our last meeting 3 weeks ago, so I'm not going to go through all the details. We still have many positions that need to be filled. And then we had a recommendation to approve the new CTE director job description update, and we as a committee agreed that that should be approved, and we're bringing it forward to you to hope that you will also agree with that. So I would like to make the motion that we approve the CTE contract update. Yeah, where'd you go? You moved it. Update. Thank you. Update the director of CTE job description. That's our recommendation. So
You're making that motion,
I am
and
making
Ms.
the
Raymond is seconding it?
Seconding it, yeah.
Okay. Any comments or questions in regards to the CTE job description? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Do we want to bop back to the personnel recommendations?
We did this in a different order. So yeah, the personnel recommendations tonight were all, there were 14 recommendations included, and they were all for teachers or staff members who have submitted their plan to retire at the end of the school year. And Mr. Baus did bring us up to date that along with these 14, he had already received information from 6 others. So that brings the total up to 20 retirees, and they have until this Thursday to still make that decision and put it in writing. So, and that we approved all of those retirees. So we recommend, I'm making a motion that we approve the personnel recommendations of tonight.
Second.
Always sad to see people retire, but I'm getting to the point where I'm getting enormously jealous of people who are putting in that paperwork. Okay, so any comments or questions in regards to the personnel recommendations? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Liaison reports really quickly. We'll do JSSBC. Ms. Gilio, put those together, and then I'll give a quick update on Ed Council.
Put them together. I know, where did I put them? Oh, interesting.
If you don't have them, it's okay.
Yeah, oh, I do, they're right here. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, we met this past Thursday night, and Chairman Dodd introduced the 3 new members of the JSSBC, including two of our members here and 1 new alderman. And he did a PowerPoint presentation reviewing what the JSSBC does. They also announced that the 55 Franklin Street project has been completed, and it came in at $235,066.30 under budget. Yeah, I know. At the new McCarthy School, 2 of the 4 areas have already been punch listed. The 3rd will be done in February. Furniture will be arriving in early May and in early June. There will be March, April inspections, and the fire inspections have already taken place. The March and April inspections will be for electrical and mechanical. Everything is going along fine. Pennachuck, the dehumidification work will start when the snow is gone. Birch Hill and Main Dunstable, the portions of the buildings that have been worked on all this year are about to be turned over back to the schools, which will happen the week after February vacation. And then they'll begin working on other parts of those 2 schools.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I shared with a couple of you guys, but a friend of ours from, high school, elementary school, whatever, is one of the electricians over at Birch Hill, and while they were up in the ceilings, they found an old program from when I was an elementary school student, and it had my name on it. It was some sort of French play we put on, which I don't remember, and I remember everything, so it must have been a horrible play. But it was up in the ceilings, and they sent the picture to me.
It actually hadn't crumbled into dust after
No, but it was
yellowed, cracked like a.
I'll show you the picture. It was all folded up.
So
It was,
long ago.
jammed up. I know, they're like, what elementary school? It was fun. But it was fun. You see all the names, and we're all still friends together. So anyway, I thought that was neat. So I'll talk a little bit about Ed Council. Ed Council meets to address the matters and policies and procedures. It's part of the teacher's contract. We meet with representative from the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school. Everybody kind of gives an update on what's going on in their world. The high school updated us about the awards and recognitions that we talked about earlier, the Jazz State, the All-State, and the Chamber. Jazz All-State, Chamber All-State, and Classical All-State Music Festival, and the 5 students who were accepted to go up there. And then we talked a little bit about positions, grant-funded positions. There's some call for cell phone policies. If the superintendent cabinet, when that was going to start, and that's going to start, it's going to be twice a year. Questions about retainment of teachers, academic accountability, the amount of testing in the middle school, and then giving an update on, they wanted an update on when the redistricting plan was going to be happening for elementary schools, which is obviously September 2025. And then wanted an update on the plan and priority for building repairs and renovations. There are a couple of other things in there as well for curriculum, and a lot of it we just talked about. And that is it. I'm just trying to do this quickly because I know, but I think.
So it's, NTU will be sharing the minutes with their membership, and we also send it to our administrative staff.
Yep, okay. And I just give a little blurb, and there was my blurb. So what we'll do is we'll go into second public comment, but if you guys want what we normally do, and it doesn't have to be, it's just what we've done. It's not what we've always done or always have to do, but typically what we do is we do second public comment, and then we do board member comments after. We don't end the meeting, but we go into non-public and we let everybody leave who doesn't need to be here anymore. And then we do our non-public, we come back into public, but everyone's already gone, so we just do notes on it and vote to go home. So do you guys have any objection about doing second public comment and then going into board member comments and then going into non-public? Okay.
So much faster.
Thank you. Oh, this is gonna be long, guys. Remember, 15 minutes with motions to extend. First up, Debbie O'Connor. Make sure you state your name and your address.
Absolutely. Hello, my name is Debbie O'Connor and I live at 3 Cantor Court, Nashua, New Hampshire. I am a retired teacher as of 2 years ago. I taught at Amherst Street for 15 years and was a para for 10 years before that. During my tenure, I held an elementary ed certification, special ed certification, and was ESL certified. I piloted math curriculum and wrote science curriculum to align to the Common Core standards. I thought I was finished with advocating for students of Nashua after retiring, but speaking to colleagues across the district, I have to speak up for the teachers who can't speak for themselves. I was present for the CKLA presentation 2 weeks ago, given by Mrs. Sarfty and the participating pilot teachers. The CKL curriculum that is currently being piloted in our district teaches background knowledge in social studies and science. I will say that it is content-rich, but as I listened to the speakers, I felt something was missing. At no time did anyone speak about how they were actually teaching students to read. The sample passage used as a first grade text was written at a 3rd grade level. My question was, what first grader can read this? This program is highly scripted, developmentally inappropriate, worksheet heavy, lacks avenues to build stamina, and does not include books in the hands of students. This is a one-size-fits-all curriculum and does not differentiate for students who are reading below grade level. You, Mrs. Sarfty, should also inform the school board that many of the district's experts, teachers, reading specialists, ESL teachers, and special educators do not support this curriculum because it is not part of a balanced literacy program. Post-COVID students need more support than ever to be successful, and this program does not allow for differentiation. Not all students learn in the same way, and teaching only grade-level curriculum is arrogant at best and not what the students of Nashua need to learn and grow as readers. Teachers know how to teach, and they also know what works and is appropriate for the students in their classroom. Trust your experts, your teachers. You, Mrs. Sarfty, have mandated that this is the only curriculum for all teachers in the district to use, even if not in the pilot program. You have mandated the disposal of hundreds of thousands of dollars of books and teaching materials. Teachers have been told that if they use materials not approved by you, they face written reports that will go into their employment file and/or face possible firing. If I come into your classroom and you're teaching a leveled reading group, there will be consequences. Teachers are even afraid of your so-called anonymous surveys, thinking that somehow you will find out who they are and be retaliated against. This sounds like a hostile work environment to me and needs to be addressed by the superintendent and the school board immediately. A teacher's job is hard
Ms.
enough.
Connors, I just want to, if there's concern with not the superintendent, that needs to go through the superintendent.
Right.
And I would encourage you to speak about this, but I think speaking about one specific administrator who is not the superintendent, he's the only one that's kind of in the line of
Hopefully,
fire right now.
he's heard these comments before.
Hopefully.
and
I
is
just want to make sure that we're not.
taking that into
Yeah,
account.
just
Sure.
want to make sure everyone.
I'm almost done.
Is heard. Thank
A
you.
teacher's job is hard enough without being harassed and threatened by the very people who should be supporting the excellent work that they do every day. Please support your educators to make the best decisions for students they are responsible for and not be dragged down by a curriculum that does not support all students. I piloted programs. I sat on piloting teams. It was a way for them to check the box. 20 out of probably 25 piloting teachers, 23 said no, 2 said yes, and that's the program we ended up with. We wrote curriculum, it lasts for a year. I agree, we need to have more than one program piloted in this district. Teachers' voices need to be just given a voice. And they're not being given a voice right now. They are so fearful of the retaliation, and it happened in my day. It did, and that's why you don't see teachers here. And when I talked to my cohorts and I learned that the curriculum that we were able to use at Amherst Street School and raise our kids' reading scores by at least a year, ESL kids who came in with no language, nothing, and they were able to read when they left my classroom. And I taught second, third, and fifth, and in fifth grade, I still had kiddos who couldn't read. Trust your teachers. Listen to your teachers, and somehow you have got to get out to the schools because they are fearful for their jobs.
So
listen to your
Thank you.
teachers.
Thank you. And encourage them to speak to any of us at any time. We welcome I know we welcome feedback. I just also want to make sure that we're following policy in regards to concerns with curriculum and staff. So thank you, guys. We will now jump into board member comments. I'll start over on this side now.
Ms. Bishop, can I just speak to one thing, though? I just want to,
I just want to be careful.
Oh, sure.
Because I want to just follow policy and I don't.
100%. I just wanted to clarify one thing. So I just want to clarify one thing. So the curriculum shifts that we have made are not based on my opinion, my philosophy, and what I would like to see in this district. The curriculum shifts that we have seen are in line with what the entire country is doing, because balanced literacy practices, which have been alive and well in our country for couple of decades, have proven to be not only ineffective, but harmful to children. When I came into this district, 70% of our children could not read proficiently. 70%. And that is the reason why it is so critical for us to make sure that everything that we are doing follows the evidence, follows empirical evidence about how the brain learns to read. If nothing else, I just want to make sure that that is very clear.
I know, and we've talked about this, and I just want to follow policy in regards to concerns, but I also want to make sure that we talk about this in curriculum, and anybody who has questions, you're available, I'm available, Dr. Andre's available. I'll start over here at this time for board member comments.
Thank you. So just two things. One, Mr. Mears mentioned the course selection night. Sorry, I've lost it. It's late, and I had to shovel today.
I don't think he had any idea what you were talking about.
Right, no, he mentioned course selection night for South is this week for parents.
Yeah, that's the informational meeting.
Informational meeting. For North, it's Monday.
Yep.
And I don't know if people said that, but I zoomed out if they did. So it's Monday night, so if there are parents of current North students, that's Monday. The second thing is I received a bunch of emails. I think we all received a bunch of emails about girls hockey. I also had a number of parents and students reach out to me directly via text or a phone call. And I'm hearing a lot of different things about, like, we have to have equal numbers of the same number of boys teams as girls teams, which is not my understanding of Title IX. And also, I can't find any policy about it. So if we could have a follow-up on that at some point so that we understand the process, because I don't know the process. So I don't know if it's a board decision, if it's not a board decision, I don't know what the laws are, and I can't find any policies. So at some point, some updated information that would help us to do our jobs would be great.
List.
Great. Thank you.
Julia?
Oh, me? Okay, I just want to say that as a grandparent of at least one child who does attend Broad Street School, the vote on tonight's vote on redistricting was extremely difficult for me. But I wanted to make sure that we all understood that it's not just Broad Street students who are being asked to go from one school to another school and then go to yet a third different school. And so that was a lot of the reason for my negative vote on that. And thank you, it was tough, but I had to make a choice and I did.
Darling?
It has been a late night already. I don't know at what point I became old enough that 8 p.m. has become my bedtime, but I'm feeling it right now. And I did not shovel. I have no excuse. I had an easy day today. But yeah, no, I'm glad the redistricting vote is over. I think that was the most stressful one since masks.
So, yay.
Masks.
That was the first big vote after I got elected in, and the number of like really angry emails I got from people being like, "You're killing people."
Yep.
I'm a hippie, man. I don't
24.
kill people. I don't got time for that.
Mr. Claffey?
Yeah, tomorrow night, 6:30. If you're not busy, my understanding is that at Nashua South Belanger Gym, Josh Caruso is expected to reach a milestone with his 1,000th point.
Ooh.
First student, definitely not the first student. I know there was a young lady who did it. First student, I believe, coached by the illustrious Mr. Mazero. Coach.
Daniels Williams?
So yes, the redistricting vote. Now that was definitely a hard one because it affects more than just one school. They are more than just numbers. They are definitely kids. I really feel for the Broad Street School and parents. And we can do things like giving them the voucher program and everything that was mentioned earlier to the vote. But 12 teachers, that's a lot. I just want to focus on that. We are fighting here in Nashua to keep teachers, to bring in quality teachers and keep them from going across the line. So that is definitely why my vote, even though it's a hard one, because children, family, community, that's me, So I hope that we can look at the other schools that are being redistricting now that we have created this opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Prin?
I'm not sure what to say. This was an interesting night to say the least. I'm looking forward to digging more into it. So, but yeah, that's it.
Mr. Johnson?
I just wanted to thank Superintendent and Mr. Pasca for meeting with me last week to discuss girls hockey. I think it is a big issue for some of the kids. It's a growing sport, and I appreciate the time that was given to discuss it, especially with Mrs. Gingras too, to discuss it and to workshop some ideas that we could see implemented in the future. Thank you.
Ms. Lampier?
I'm just so excited with our new voices on the board and your different areas of expertise and what you guys are all bringing. And I just can't wait to see what you all have to offer next as you get more comfortable. And, again, welcome to the board. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I am looking for a motion to go into non-public. Yeah. This has been a game changer that I've finally accepted where I am in life. Like, talk about needing to go to bed at 8. I now can't go to the grocery store without being bringing a buddy or glasses. Yes. So be looking to go into non-public under what?
Litigation is E.
What?
Litigation is RSA 91A32E, as an elephant.
Thank you. So I'm looking to go into non-public under RSA A32E.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Gilio. It has to be a roll call vote.
All right, so the roll call vote, Ms. Darling?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Claffey?
Yes.
Oh, this is old.
This is
I'm
the old
sorry.
order.
I'm sorry. Ms. Prin?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
We just changed the P on the last one.
Oh yeah, I could have done that. I'm a yes. Miss, Oh, my goodness. Ms. Daniels Williams?
Yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilio?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 9-0. And so it's 8:03?
It is 8:03. We are now in non-public.
Can I just say, so, I also